الحمد الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So it says Ismail ibn Abi Hakim. I'm pretty sure we just saw that in the Muwatta. One second. He's one of the teachers of Imam Malik, I'm pretty sure. Ismail ibn Abi Hakim. I just had the Muwatta class right now. So you see Imam Malik, because Imam Malik's in Medina, Ibn Ishaq in Medina, the same teachers. Ismail, Ismail ibn Abi Hakim. So he passes away in 131. He's in Medina. And I'm pretty sure he's like the teachers of da, 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 da. He was a scribe of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. This is Ismail ibn Abi Hakim. The same one we're looking at here. Ismail ibn Abi Hakim, yeah. The scribe. And he is debated. He says a freed man, meaning he was a slave and then he was freed, or his dad was a slave and he was freed by the family of Az-Zubayr. And there's actually debated here which family was he? Were they previously owned by? I'm just looking at his biography quickly. Um, he studies from Abu Huraira. He narrates the hadith from Abu Huraira. أكل ذي ناب من السباع حرام. Oh no, he studied, sorry, he's a student of the student of Abu Huraira. Um, so he studies with Ibn Musayyab, the great Mufti of Medina, Urwa ibn Zubayr, the nephew of Aisha, Qasim ibn Muhammad, also the nephew of Aisha, and others. Imam Malik narrates from him, and Ibn Ishaq narrates from him. Yahya Ma'in said he's reliable. كان أبو حاتم يكتب حديثه. Abu Hatim Razi said his hadiths are definitely worth recording. And he was a, what's it called? He was a clerk, or he was a governor for Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Yeah. So again, what's the difference? Reading the Bible, no sources. Reading the Sira, there are sources. In the Bible, there's a source. Are these real sources, just kind of like words? Like, is it just like, random stuff? Um, it's not just random stuff, it's real things, right? These are real people. You can find out about them. They're real individuals. So he told me on Khadija's authority. So he did not study with Khadija, of course, right? So we just saw that he's a student of the student of Abu Huraira. So there's no way that he actually studied with Khadija radiallahu anha. So between him and Khadija, there's one or two or three people. So he just said that Khadija radiallahu anha said. Who told him that she said that? I don't know. Right? So there's a huge gap in that chain. Right? So, O son of my uncle, you are able to tell me about your visitant when he comes to you. She's talking to the Prophet ﷺ and saying, "Oh cousin." He replied that he could, and she asked him to tell him when he came. So when Jibril came to him, as he was wont, i.e., as he used to, the apostle said to Khadija, "This is Jibril who has just come to me." So basically, I'm seeing this vision, right? Um, So then and then he said, "Get up, O son of my uncle, and sit by my left thigh." The apostle did so, and she said, "Can you see him?" She said, "Yes." She said, "Then turn around and sit on my right thigh." He said, he did so, and she said, "Can you see him?" When he said that he could, she asked him to move and sit in her lap. When he had done so, she asked him if he could see him, and when he said yes, she disclosed her form and cast aside her veil, while the apostle was sitting in her lap. So where she took off her hijab, exposing skin perhaps. Then she said, "Can you see him?" And he replied, "No." So, O son of my uncle, rejoice and be of good heart. By God, he is an angel and not a Satan. So the fact that he's present when I'm exposing her body means that it's an angel, not a devil. Right? And so that also tells us, right, that we shouldn't be walking around naked. So in the Shafi school, for example, a woman is obliged to cover navel to knee even when she's by herself. Right? Navel to knee. She doesn't have a shower. Obviously, could she expose her thighs, etc. But otherwise, navel to knee, that should be covered. I don't know about the other madhahib. Do they stipulate that or not? I don't know. But in the Shafi school, it's not permissible. You can't just walk around naked at home for no reason, right? Out of respect for Allah and out of respect for the angels. Okay. So I told Abdullah ibn Hassan this story, and he said, "I heard my mother Fatima, daughter of Hussein, talking about this tradition from Khadija." So notice what he's doing. We have a weak story here. This is a story, right? Because we have somebody we trust and known, and he says that somebody told him that Khadija said, right? There's at least two people. There's a gap. There's a big gap in time, right? So he dies, right? Abu Ismail, he dies in 130. So let's say, for example, he lived to the age of 70. Okay. So that means he was born in the year 60. So he's born in the year 60. Between him and Khadija radiallahu anha is ages, right? We're talking about like 60 years between them, right? So you can imagine somebody who died 60 years before you were born, right? Somebody who died 60 years before you were born. There's no way that you studied with them, of course. And it's unlikely you studied with somebody who even studied with them. It's most likely you're studying with somebody who studied with somebody who studied with them, or even a third person, right? So anyway, it's a weak chain of transmission. I told Abdullah ibn Hassan this story. I don't know who this is. And he said that his mother, Fatima, the daughter of Hussein. So again, this is Hassan, the grandson of Fatima, of Hussein, talking about this tradition from Khadija. So again, there's a gap in the chain, right? Fatima, the daughter of Hussein, did not meet Khadija. Hussein did not meet Khadija, right? So, right? So then there's a huge gap there. But again, you could imagine there's some strength in it. It's in the family. There's, you can have a husna dhan and kind of like a weak evidence supporting other weak evidence. Does that make sense to everybody? He says, but as I heard it, she made the apostle come inside her shift. She said, "Come inside my clothes." Right, come inside my clothes. Can you see him? And thereupon, so she didn't expose her aura, but rather he went inside her clothes and said, Can you see and then Sayyidina Jibril departed. Right. And she said to the apostle, "This is verily an angel, not a Satan." Right. Does that make sense? And also the shayateen, they are present. If you expose your aura, they are present. And we say Bismillah alladhi la ilaha illahu before you expose your aura. So you need to change. You say Bismillah alladhi la ilaha illahu, if I remember correctly. This is the dua that we say, right? And then that means protects. 1 second, let me just double check that quickly. I'm almost certain of it. One of these things. Bismillah alladhi la ilaha illahu. Kash. I think it's in Kitab al-Adhkar. كشف العورة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الذي. Here we go. Excuse me. Bismillah, not Bismillah الذي. Okay. Yeah. So Ibn Sunni mentions that. Yeah. Bismillah الذي لا إله إلا هو. That's what you say before you expose a woman take a hijab off, for example. Before she takes a hijab off, Bismillah الذي لا إله إلا هو. The jinn and the shayateen, the perverts, so to speak, the perverts of the jinn will not and someone sort of taking their clothes off, whatever, they say Bismillah الذي لا إله إلا هو. Excuse me. Okay. This says the beginning of sending down of the Quran. The apostle began to receive revelations in the month of Ramadan. In the words of God, quote, the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was brought down as a guidance to man and proofs of guidance and a decisive criterion. And again, verily we have sent it down on the night of destiny, right? Not night of power. Okay? So, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Qadr is destiny. Qadr also means worth. Lahu qadr azim. He has a high, great worth. It doesn't mean qudra. Qudra is power. But this is two different words, right? And what shall show you what the night of destiny is? The night of destiny is better than 1,000 nights. It is in it the angels and the spirit, capital S, Sayyidina Jibreel, descend by their Lord's permission with every matter. It is peace until the rise of dawn. And so here, I was going to say, when we say the Quran was revealed in Ramadan, what does that mean? So does it mean it was revealed in Ramadan, or does it mean it began to be revealed in Ramadan? Right? One opinion is it just began to become revealed in Ramadan. Another position is no, it was revealed in Ramadan, but not to a Sama' ad-Dunya. It wasn't revealed it wasn't revealed to this world. It wasn't revealed to this world at that time. So rather, it was revealed to Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur. Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur is the equivalent of the Kaaba in the heavens. It's like the angels' version of the Kaaba. So in the Bayt al-Ma'mur, it was revealed there, and bit by bit, it was revealed from that to us. Right? Okay, that's another understanding. And again, verily, okay. And again, HM Hamim by the perspicuous book. Verily we have sent it down in a blessed night. Verily we were warning. It is in it every wise matter is decided, and as a command from us. We very sent it down. And this verse as well has also been explained as to refer to Laylat Nisf Sha'ban as well. Different tafsirs there. And again, had you believed in God and what we sent down to our servant on the day of decision and the day when the two parties met, i.e., the meeting of the apostle with the polytheists in Badr. Abu Ja'far, Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Hussein, right? So Sayyidina Hussein, his son Ali, Zayn al-Abidin, and his son Muhammad. So Muhammad, the son of Ali Zayn al-Abidin, the son of Hussein, the son of Ali, the son of, right, told me that the apostle met the polytheists in Badr on the morning of Friday and the 17th of Ramadan. So that's why some people say the 17th of Ramadan is Laylatul Qadr. Then revelation came fully to the apostle while he was believing in him and in the truth of his message. He received it willingly and took upon it himself what it entailed whether of man's goodwill or anger. Prophecy is a troublesome burden. Only strong, resolute prophets can bear it by God's help and grace, because of the opposition which they meet from men in conveying God's message. The apostle carried out God's orders in spite of the opposition and ill treatment which he met. Khadija, daughter of Khuwaylid, accepted Islam. Khadija radiallahu anha believed in him and accepted as true what he brought from God and helped him in his work. She was the first to believe in God, uh, at least of the men, of the women, and his apostle, and in the truth of his message. By her, God lightened the burden of his prophet, and he never met with contradiction and charges of falsehood, which saddened him. But God comforted him by her when he went home. Right. So this is a very important concept. Right. There's a number of things in it, obviously, but for example, the whole issue of patriarchy is that women should be doormats. Right. You should marry basically a dumb woman who doesn't say anything apart from yes. In reality, if you want a supporting wife, you're probably going to have a strong wife, right? Because she actually won't be able to support you otherwise. So there's this, everything is a package. So somebody wants, like, I don't want to be challenged by my wife. I don't want to be intimidated by my wife. I don't want to have my wife to have any qualities or any skills or any property that I don't have. She has to be dumber than me, poorer than me, less religious than me, less everything. So basically, I just feel confident about myself. That's a wrong way of thinking, right? That's a wrong way of thinking. It's a stupid way of thinking, an immature way of thinking, right? In reality, the husband and wife support each other, find strength in each other, and that means she'll have certain qualities you don't have. So Khadija radiallahu anha was older than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And I'm sure she had certain qualities the Prophet didn't have at certain stages or certain ways or certain scenarios, right? Insights, right? So or the worst thing is people want both. Like I want an intelligent wife who's going to agree with me. It's impossible you can have an intelligent wife that agrees with you. It's impossible because two intelligent people never agree on everything, right? So the only way that you could have an intelligent wife is that sometimes she's gonna be like, "Look, you're totally wrong," right? And you'll be like, "How can you say I'm totally wrong? You're my wife. You have to do sujud to me." Doing sujud to your husband does not mean that you agree with him in every single thing, right? Just like with your parents, you might be very humble before your parents, but you disagree with them. That's fine and normal, right? So I 100% disagree with you, but I will let you choose. I 100% disagree with you, but I will do what you ask me to do. If you want me to walk up the mountain, I will do it. I'm just saying it's not a good idea. If you want to move house and buy and start a job, a new career somewhere else, if you want me to leave my job that's outside of the house, I will do it. If you want us to have kids, we'll do it. But I'm telling you, we've spoken to the doctor and it's not a good idea, right? And now he feels annoyed and intimidated because his wife has wisdom. That's stupid. You should thank Allah you have a wise wife, right? That says, look, we shouldn't have another baby. It's not going to be good for us. We shouldn't move house. I don't advise you to change job. Why don't you try this, right? And we see the Prophet is surrounded by wise women. They're not stupid. They're not women who just say, yes, master, whatever you say, master, right? So there is an aspect of that. Look, at the end of the day, I understand, I've listened to you, but now I'm saying this. Okay. It stops there, right? That's when she has to submit. But before that, can we discuss this? Because it doesn't really make sense, right? So a man who's with a brain and humility will discuss with his wife, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should we do this? Should we do this? Should we do this? Should we do this? What do you think? Right? Business, school, education, life, dealing with people. The Prophet ﷺ is sharing his prophethood, which is way above your job, with his wives, and they're helping him. Right? And so we have to be a team. It doesn't work without being a team. Many men like try and be Batman. Don't be Batman. The Prophet ﷺ was not Batman. Right? Has everyone seen the Batman? What's it called? The Lego Batman movie? You seen it, Abaid? Sara, you seen it? Yaqub?
Yeah.
Yaqub divorced TV and the screens 20 years ago. I know that. You understand what I'm saying, Ubaid? He's like, this is a one-man show. I got this, right? So
Yes, sir.
there are certain times when it is like, I got this, right? Where like, you know, your wife's tired, your wife can't handle something, and it's like, I got this, don't worry. Like I just can't go and talk. I don't know what to do. Okay, just go and deal with it. But that doesn't mean that's the default all the time, right? Like, you know, and I heard this one brother, his wife traveled for like 2 months. He comes back and they've moved house. Like, I mean, obviously it's nice to like tell your wife, look, I'm gonna put you up at a hotel and you don't have to do anything. That's nice, okay? But like to move without telling your wife, I think that's a bit extreme, right? That sounds to me personally like toxic masculinity. Like she's going to disagree with some things I'm going to do and she's going to challenge me. So I don't want that. So I'm going to avoid that by just like doing it by myself. Right. Like, I don't think most women, that's not like, oh, I'm so happy. They actually be kind of shocked. Right. Like, you know, you can't just like move people around. Like, it's kind of like a bit crazy. You can say, oh, look, there's a hotel. Hey, surprise. We're going to this hotel. That's so nice. But this is your house and I moved your stuff. You know, I don't know. That's the way I see things a lot. So anyway, the Prophet ﷺ, he had strong women. He did not have human doormats as wives. Okay. And so what does that mean? It means there's going to be pushback at some times, right? There's going to be pushback. People are disagreeing with you. How dare you disagree with me? I have to say something. You have to say it's 100%. Yes, sir. You're always right. Nobody's going to do that, right? It's not life. You can have an AI girlfriend like that. That's true. You can have an AI girlfriend or AI wife. I'm sure there can be an AI halal girlfriend, app, whatever. But that's not real life, you know? And similarly for a woman, if you're intelligent, there will be certain times when your husband will do things that you really disagree with. Like, I don't get it. Why are you taking the kids out of this school and putting it to this school? So we've discussed it. And I understand your opinion, and it's my opinion. And at the end of the day, I'm going to say this. So he's in charge, right? So that means the frustration is a product of her intelligence in reality. Because if she wasn't intelligent, then she wouldn't have an opinion. She'd be like, yeah, whatever. But she's intelligent, she's insightful, she knows this and knows that, she knows what's going on. And so as a result, 1 second, I'm about to get as a result, she's going to have an opinion at a certain time. The husband's not going to agree. And then he's going to say, I'm going to do X, and which is contrary to her. And she's going to seem super ticked off. And that's part of her role to be like, yep, I accept. That's okay. I accept the fact that I disagree with my husband, and I accept the fact that he's in charge, and I accept the fact that I'm annoyed. And that's okay. You can be annoyed. Just like a ruler, the government is going to do certain things that you think are completely stupid, right? But that's why we have somebody in charge. There has to be somebody, right, that's going to say one thing and somebody's going to say something else, and then they go one way or the other. So this is normal life. May God Almighty have mercy upon her. Hisham ibn Urwa told me in authority of his father, Urwa ibn Zubayr, from Abdullah ibn Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, that the Apostle said, I was commanded to give Khadijah the good news of a house of qasab, which is some kind of wood, wherein there will be no clamor and no toil. She'd have a very nice house, i.e. in Jannah. Right? Then revelation stopped for a time, so that the Apostle of God was distressed and grieved. Then Jibreel brought him to the surah of in the morning, Surah Al-Duha, in which his Lord, who had so honored him, swore that he had not forsaken him and did not hate him. God said, by the morning and the night when it is still, thy Lord hath not forsaken nor hated thee, meaning that he has not left you or forsaken you, nor hated you after having loved you. And verily, the latter is better for you than the beginning, i.e., for what I have for you when you return to me is better than the honor which I have given you in the world. And your Lord will give you and satisfy you, i.e., the victory in this world and the reward in the next. Did he not find you an orphan and give you refuge, going astray and guided you, found you poor and made you rich? God thus told him of how he had begun to honor him in his earthly life, and his kindness to him as an orphan and wandering astray, and of his delivering him from all that by his compassion. Do not oppress the orphan and do not repel the beggar. That is, do not be a tyrant or proud or harsh or mean towards the weakest of God's creatures. Speak of the kindness وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ, right? And speak of the kindness of the Lord. I tell about the kindness of God in giving you prophecy, mention it and call men to it. So the apostle began to mention secretly uh, God's kindness to him and his servants in the matter of prophecy to everyone among his people whom he could trust. So the initial da'wah is small, right? And in general, everything, when we do things in life as well, do things slowly, right? Start exercise slowly, start things slowly, and yeah. Uh, you know, I've got a whole mission to have a kind of like a farm at home. It's not really possible, but on a small level. But just start slowly, right? Here I got these three ducklings to my not really ducklings anymore. They're kind of like teenage ducks now, to my left. Right? I could go out and buy like a whole bunch of other ducks, but I'm just doing things slowly, working out what works, what doesn't work. They've somehow broken out, which is the problem. So now I have to fix that. And so, you know, do things slowly, bit by bit, and things work. Anything that's rushed, right? Al-anatu min Allah wal ajlatu min ash-shaytan, right? Taking things slowly is from Allah and haste is from the devil. Okay, we are there. The prescription to pray. So prayer meaning formal prayers. It's very important when you're talking to non-Muslims, you have to say, oh, I have to do my ritual prayer, not my prayer. We always pray as Muslims, right? Meaning dua. We always pray, meaning making dua, but the ritual prayer, right? So when you tell a Christian, Muslims pray 5 times a day, that's not true. Muslims do the ritual prayer 5 times a day. As for the normal prayer, we do it all the time. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, right? You go to the bathroom, you pray. Come out of the bathroom, you pray, right? You eat, you pray, right? So a Christian says grace when they eat. We say grace when you go to the bathroom and when we eat and we finish eating and when we go to bed and when you wake up in the morning and you go into your car and you come out of your car and you come into your house and you come out of your house and when you see something in the dunya and it's called dhikr, it's called dua, right? That's called prayer. But when you say salah, that means the ritual prayer. So the apostle was ordered to pray, and so he prayed. Salih ibn Kaysan narrates from Urwa ibn Zubayr from Aisha. So Urwa, the nephew of Aisha, told me that she said, when prayer was first laid upon the apostle, it was with 2 prostrations for every prayer. Meaning, not 2 prostrations, 2 rak'ahs for every prayer. Not two sajdas, 2 rak'ahs, right? So basically, originally the prayer was 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Then God raised it to 4 prostrations at home while on a journey, the former ordinance of 2 prostrations held. So this, I believe, is the basis for somebody can double check in the Maliki school. I think they say that like the Fatiha and the first 2 rak'ahs is fard, but it's not afterwards because the prayer is originally just 2 rak'ahs, just like Jum'ah is just 2 rak'ahs, right? A learned person, right? Notice his source, unknown source, told me that when prayer was laid on. So again, there's a total gap in the chain, right? There's just no. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying there's no source whatsoever. A learned person told me that when prayer was laid on the Prophet ﷺ, Gabriel came to him while he was at the heights of Mecca and dug a hole for him with his heel in the side of the valley, from which a fountain gushed forth. Gabriel performed the ritual ablution as the Prophet ﷺ watched him. This was in order to show him how to purify himself for prayer. Then the Apostle performed the ritual prayer as he had the ritual ablution as he had seen Gabriel do it. Then Gabriel said a prayer with him while the Apostle prayed with his prayer, i.e., he was the ma'mum. Then Gabriel left. The apostle came to Khadija and performed the ritual for her as Gabriel had done so, and she copied him. Then then he prayed with her as Gabriel had prayed with her, and she prayed his prayer. Right? And this is in the Muwatta of Imam Malik, and it's also in Abu Dawood and other places, right? Also about the times of prayer. Utbah ibn Muslim, a freed slave of Bani Taym, from Nafi' ibn Jubayr ibn Mut'im, who was prolific in relating to tradition, from Ibn Abbas, told me, he said, when prayer was laid upon the Prophet, upon the Apostle, Gabriel came to him and prayed the noon prayer. That's what, right? They call it, right? The noon prayer when the sun had declined, when it had passed the zenith. Then he prayed the evening prayer, or is it? Then he prayed the evening prayer, Salat al-Asr, um, when his shadow equaled his own length, right? So this is the position of the majority of scholars, is that Asr is prayed. You get an object. He's a 6 foot man. He's standing at the zenith. You look at his shadow. His shadow is 2 feet at the zenith because he's in the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere or something. And then you wait for his shadow to be 8 feet, meaning the height, the length of the shadow at the zenith plus the height of the man. He's 6 foot tall. So now it is you combine those two, and now what is it? That's now the last second of Dhuhr and the beginning of Asr. According to the Hanafis, it's 2 shadows length. So that's why Hanafis pray later, right? He then prayed the sunset prayer when the sun set. Then he prayed the last night prayer when the twilight had disappeared. Shafaq, meaning the red of the sky, according to most scholars, and according to Imam Muzani, Abu Hanifa, the white of the sky. So when is it approximately somewhere between 12 to 15 degrees? The sun is 12 to 15 degrees below the horizon. The other one's about 18 degrees. So this is called astronomical twilight, right? So when you say the twilight had disappeared, that's called astronomical twilight, which is at 18 degrees below the horizon. Then he prayed with him the morning prayer, Fajr, when the dawn rose. Then he came to him and prayed the noon prayer on the morrow when the shadow equaled his height. So notice he's basically showing him the two sides of Dhuhr. Dhuhr begins when the shadow gets longer, starts to get longer. So at the zenith, the shadow is its shortest length, and it starts to get longer. It's now Dhuhr. Now here's this thing. You look at its shadow's length plus the length of the zenith. That is the last second of Dhuhr. So basically, Sayyidina Jibreel came and led the Prophet in Dhuhr in the last few minutes of Dhuhr. So this is the end. So here's a 6 foot object. He had a 2 foot length shadow at the zenith. When it gets to 8 foot, that is the two of them put together, that is the last moment of Dhuhr. Plus a little bit, it's now Asr. Okay? So the way it's being described is that Dhuhr and Asr are the same. Right? But it's not. What it means is the last moment of Dhuhr. Then he came to him and prayed the noon prayer on the morrow when the shadow equaled his height. Then he prayed the evening prayer when his shadow equaled the height of both of them. So notice the window then given for Asr here is 1 shadow's length, 2 shadows length. So for the Hanbalis, it's actually sinful to delay it past that point. So again, here's this object, 6 foot tall object. The shadow was 2 foot. Once it reaches 8 foot, that is the beginning of Asr. Once it reaches 14 feet, the shadow is 14 feet long. That is 2 times the height of the object plus the length as well. That is the end of Asr for Hanbalis, meaning the last time that it's halal to pray. Delaying it now is now sinful. That is the relied upon position in the Hanbali school, right? And for the Malikis and the Shafis, we're now going into makruh time, right? So when the Hanafi time starts, that is the makruh time for the Hanbalis and Malikis, and it is the sinful time for the Hanbalis, right? Does that make sense? Everyone's following? Yaqub, Sara, Ubaid.
Sorry, can you repeat the measurements? 6 to 8 and 6 to 14?
So here's the object. The object is 6 feet tall. Okay. The height, the length at the zenith, the shortest the shadow ever got when the sun was nearly directly above the object was 2 feet. Okay. So now with this shadow is equal to the height of the object plus the minimum shadow at the zenith, that is the last second of Dhuhr. Okay, so when it gets to 8 feet. Okay, so Sayyidina Jibreel, he prayed Dhuhr the first day just after at Zawal, just after the zenith, and then he prayed it in the last few seconds or last few minutes of Dhuhr. The next day he came, the first day he prayed Asr right at the beginning of Asr, which was when the shadows equals the length of the object plus the minimum length at the zenith. That's what he did on the first day. The second day, he did it at 2 shadows length, meaning the object was 6 feet. The shadow at the zenith was 2 feet. So you say 6 plus 6, or 2 times 6 plus 2 is 14. So that was the last time. That was the window Sayyidina Jibreel gave. So this is the reason why the Hanbali say it's actually sinful. It's not. So praying Asr late is not actually permissible. You can't do that. I mean, you're still in Asr time, meaning you're still praying on time, but you're sinful for doing that. Does that make sense? Okay. But there's another hadith, for example, that the Prophet said, وَالْعَصْرُ مَا لَمْ was it? مَا لَمْ تَغْرِبَ الشَّمْسِ or something like that. The Prophet said, Asr is until sunset. So there we go. So that means, i.e., the ideal time would be early, right? Not that it's actually, it's not that it's sinful to do that. But anyway, that's the position of Hanbalis. They say it's sinful to do that. So in general, all things being equal, you should always pray Asr early. Then he said the sunset prayer when the sun set at the time it had the day before. So notice here, the first day he prays Maghrib at sunset. The second day he prayed Maghrib at sunset. So what is the window for Maghrib?
Short.
When does it start? When does it end?
Starts at sunset, ends when the red disappears in the sky.
Is that what it says here?
No.
So according to this hadith, there is no window for Maghrib. And that's the Maliki school. In the Maliki school, Maghrib comes in, you pray, that's it. There's no window. Right? So, and that's Imam Shafi'i's Jadid. Imam Shafi'i adopted that position later on in his life. And he said, look, when Maghrib comes in, you put your clothes on, you make wudu, dress if you need to dress, you know. One second. What is it going to? My ducklings have got out of their cage, so they're running around. I don't know what they're up to. 1 second. Okay, anyway. So so the Maliki school is Maghrib does not have a window. You can't just pray Maghrib before Isha. It's not a window like other prayers. Sunset, you got to pray Maghrib. That's the position Imam Shafi died on, but that's not the Shafi school. The Shafi school is something else, right? Which is you have the window till Isha. Okay, so then he said, then he prayed the sunset prayer when the sun set. Then he prayed with him the last night when the first third of the night had passed. Okay, so he prayed. So it's 18 degrees approximately, or 15 degrees depending how you look at it. So let's say 15 degrees. The sun sets about 15 degrees below the horizon. The red of the sky has disappeared. So now that's the beginning of Isha. So what is the window for Isha? You say between then and between 1/3 of the night. So the night is from sunset to dawn. Okay, so here, for example, in Malaysia right now, sunset is about 7:25, 7:30, make it easier. Okay, and Fajr is about 6 a.m. So Fajr comes in about 6 a.m. and sunset is about 7:30. So what's halfway between? What's that? How long is that? 7:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. How many hours is that?
It's about like 5.5 to 6.
Between 7:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. How long is that?
11 hours.
11.5 hours, right? Sorry, is it 11.5 hours? 10.5 hours. 10.5 hours, right? 6 to 6 would be 12. 7 to 6 would be 11, right? But it's 7:30, so 10.5 hours. So 10.5 hours, 10.5 hours divided by 3 is what?
3.5 something.
3.5 hours, right? So 9 hours divided by 3 would be 3 hours. 10.5 hours divided by 3 is 3.5 hours. So basically, he's saying 3.5 hours from Maghrib. So that would mean, right? So here in Kuala Lumpur, right? Based on this thing, 7:30. I'm just giving you like a rough hour, like 7:30 p.m. Okay, that's Maghrib. Okay, so now Isha is about an 8:50. Let's just say 9. Okay, 9 p.m. It makes it easier, right? That is red gone. Okay, so now I'm going to say 3.5 hours after 7:30 is what time?
11.
11. So I got a 2-hour window, right? That's a 2-hour. That's not a long time. So even for Isha, then you have maybe in the winter an hour, maybe in the summer 2 hours, 3 hours, depending how far, right? This is depending where you are. Does that make sense? So it's not, and that this is the position of the Malikis and the Hanbalis. Like you can't just pray Isha before Fajr. For the Shafis and Hanafis, yeah, you can just do that, right? Like I don't think like the makruh time for the Shafis is like 10 minutes or so before Fajr. But otherwise, like without any karaha, it is not offensive, right? I'm just going to pray Fajr. I pray Isha an hour before Fajr. Why not? Right? Particularly if you're in a Ubaid situation, right? And you're going to wait till I don't know what time Isha is where you are right now, but khalas, just pray Maghrib on time, just about, and then go to sleep and wake up a bit before Fajr and pray Isha, or there's other ways you can do it, right? But according to the Shafi's position, right, that's totally fine. You can do that. I mean, 15 minutes or so might be makruh, but otherwise like an hour. If you woke up an hour before Fajr, right? And Fajr is super early now. What time is Fajr right now where you are? 3,
Yeah.
right? And what time is sunset?
Sunset is around like 9:13-ish.
Right. So basically 9:13 sunset. Basically get ready for bed, go to sleep by 9:10, wake up at like 2, right? You get up at 2:30, pray Isha, wait till Fajr comes in, pray Fajr, go back to sleep. So that's not offensive in the Shafi school, right? Or in the Hanafi school. The Hanafis, they say the only problem in delaying Isha is in Jama'ah, right? So if we have Isha at for example 11:15 at night in your local masjid, few people are not going to turn up, right? It's obviously very late. But more people are going to turn up at 11:15 at night than at 2 a.m., right? Who's going to turn up at 2 a.m.? So they say, look, the problem, the karaha, the offensiveness about delaying Isha is nothing to do with Isha itself. It's to do with the group prayer. And so if you say, look, there's actually 5 Muslims in my whole village, okay? We're all cool to just, meet up at 2 a.m., 2:15 every single day, or 2:30 every single day, we're going to pray Isha, and then we're going to wait till Fajr comes in and pray Fajr together. Why not? You can do that's fine. But anyway, this is one picture here, which is we see that Asr is not all the way till sunset, and Maghrib doesn't seem to be all the way till Isha, and what's it called? And Isha doesn't seem to be all the way to Fajr, right? That's it, So obviously you have to put all the multiple hadiths together to get a whole picture, but this is just one hadith here, right? Make sense? And so then he said, then he prayed a dawn prayer when it was clear, but the sun was not shining. So notice, outside you can see things. Asfara. I mean, you go outside, the sun has not risen, but you can see things, right? My rooster that I had to get rid of will start crowing. You can see things outside. Right? When Fajr comes at first dawn, you can't see anything outside. It's basically dark, right? But Fajr is you go outside and before sunrise, you can see things outside, right? So basically, Sayyidina Jibreel prayed Fajr early and then prayed Fajr late, right? And so Tabari, he says, Yunus ibn Bukayr said that Muhammad ibn Ishaq told him that Yahya ibn Abu al-Ash'ath al-Kindi of the people of Kufa said that Ismail ibn Yas ibn Afif, from his father, from his grandfather, said, when I was a merchant, I came to Abbas during the days of pilgrimage. While we were together, a man came out to pray and stood facing the Kaaba. Then a woman came out and stood praying with him. Then a young man came out and stood praying with him. I said to Abbas, what is their religion? What are they doing? What's that? Is it something new? It is something new to me. He said, this is Muhammad ibn Abdullah who alleges, so Abbas at that time was not Muslim, that God has sent him with it, and that the treasures of Khosrow, right, which is the emperor of Persia, and Caesar will be open to him. The woman is his wife Khadija, who believes in him, and this young man is his nephew Ali, who believes in him. Afif said, what would that I could have believed that day and been a third, i.e. the third person. Right? He became Muslim later on. He's like, man, I should become Muslim back then. Right? And this is every single one of us. We see an opportunity and we're like, yeah, but no. And then we come back 20 years later, 40 years later, 60 years later, like, man, I wish I had done that. You know, like subhanAllah, I was teaching my son the other day, and he was getting a bit ticked off. They're like so particular in tajweed. I said, look, Habibi, should I tell you how I know this about this scene? I said, look, I used to travel from my little village in the middle of nowhere in near Wales. I used to walk up the road, and it would take about 50 minutes to an hour. Walk this road, that road, all these random roads, okay? And then wait for a bus that comes every hour or 2 hours, okay? On this main road. Get on this bus, go for another hour or so, I think it was maybe more than that, to a place called Gloucester. Has everybody eaten Gloucester cheese? Does everybody know Gloucester cheese? No? No, you're not cheese eaters? Come on, guys. Google it. Gloucester cheese, yeah? No, Sheikh, come on. Anyway, Gloucester cheese. Look it up. Gloucester. Gloucester cheese. Anyway, it's famous. So I'm from a place called Hereford. In America, you call it Hereford. So you have the Hereford bull. That's a bull, a breed of cattle that they brought to the Americas called Hereford, right? Worcester sauce. No? Worcester sauce? Nobody? Yeah, great. That's right next to me. Hereford and Worcester were like one county. Okay. So Worcester sauce, Worcester, right? It's written Worcester, but Worcester sauce, Gloucester, Gloucester, Hereford, all these places next to each other. Anyway, what was I saying? So anyway, so I used to travel, get on this bus, go all the way to Gloucester, and in Gloucester there was a sheikh, and I would wait for his class to finish, and his name was Qari Rafiq. Inshallah, he's still alive. Who did he study with? Sheikh Abdul Basit himself, right? Sheikh Abdul Basit himself, right? So what I should have done at the age of 16 or 15, whenever I used to go there, is I actually should have just moved to Gloucester. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, so I was telling my son, like, look, I know this thing about the scene because of him. He was very particular. Like he didn't take any prisoners. He was very strict, right? So I'm saying I'm being strict with you because it's not a joke. I said Sheikh Abdul Basit, like, oh, the Sheikh Abdul Basit. I said, yeah, my grand teacher is Sheikh Abdul Basit. But this is the issue. Opportunities come like, oh, Sheikh Abdul Basit's over there, or Sheikh so-and-so's over there, or this, and then we blow it. Like we don't actually take those opportunities. So it's really, really important, particularly now in Akhir Zaman, right? And again, every generation says we're Akhir Zaman, but particularly now it's like, there's an opportunity, don't blow it, to do something good, go and do it, right? And don't be like this person's like, oh man, I could have been one of the first of the Sahaba, but I blew it. You know what I'm saying? I think he did, didn't he? I think initially, I don't know. I think he hit it at some point. I'm not sure. But he becomes Muslim at Fath Makkah, didn't he? As far as I know. Just before Fath Makkah, basically. So the Prophet ﷺ is showing him the armies, and look, this is this tribe, and this is this tribe, and this is this. It's either him or Abu Sufyan. Maybe I'm mixing the two up. Maybe I'm mixing the two up. I don't know. But certainly he's not Muslim. As far as I know, he's not Muslim at the time of the Hijrah. So at the time of the Hijrah, he's there talking to Aus and Khazraj, saying, look, his tribe, I'm his representative. I'm giving him over to you, right? So it's more of like a political thing, right? Like basically, I'm signing him off, right? So it's a different ballgame. It's a political thing as opposed to that. So anyway, what was I saying? So there's opportunities, don't blow them, right? Don't blow them. There's a sheikh that's coming to town. Go. There's a class that's happening somewhere. Borrow the money. Just do it somehow, right? You could just about go on Umrah, go. You don't know how long you'll be able to go there for, Just take opportunities while they're there. Inshallah, we'll stop here. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.